It started with a dog. I was hauling a grocery bag full of cat food up the third flight of stairs, mentally cursing the broken elevator, when a blur of golden fur and wagging tail came barreling down the hallway and smacked into my shins. I almost dropped the bag. "Whoa, hey!" I staggered back. The dog yipped, then immediately flopped onto its back, tail thumping against the floor like it was trying to drill into the concrete. I'd seen this dog before, always hanging out on the fire escape 2 floors down, but I'd never seen the owner. Until now. "Daisy!" a voice called out. "Shit, sorry man, she's not great with boundaries." And that's when he appeared. T-shirt stuck to his chest from the summer humidity, hair a mess like he'd just rolled out of bed, and this look in his eyes like he was permanently 5 seconds away from laughing. He jogged down the hall and crouched beside the dog, ruffling her ears. "You're the 3rd person she's tackled this week," he said, looking up at me with his sheepish smile. "We're working on it," I blinked. "It's fine. She's cute and apparently very excited about cat food." He glanced at the bag in my arms. "You have a cat?" "2. Technically 3, but the 3rd one's just a very judgmental neighbor cat who thinks he lives with me." He laughed. And it was a really good laugh. Not forced, not polite, the kind that made you want to say something funny, just to hear it again. "I'm Sean," he said, offering a hand. "Eli," I replied, shifting the bag to my other arm to shake it. His hand was warm, a little rough, like he actually worked with them. Which was weirdly hot. "I just moved in," he added. "Unit 2C, so I guess I'm your neighbor now." "Oh," I said, then instantly regretted how awkward that sounded. "Cool. Welcome to the no elevator, weird-smelling, overly enthusiastic pet building." He grinned. "Sounds perfect." That should have been the end of it. Just a quick hallway encounter. A cute guy with a dog. The usual, nice to meet you, neighborly interaction. But something about the way he looked at me, not just at my face, but at me, like he was actually seeing me, stuck with me longer than I wanted to admit. That night, I kept catching myself staring at the ceiling, wondering what he was doing 2 floors down. And that was before everything really started. Before the late-night laundry room run-ins. Before the drinks on the fire escape. Before the night he knocked on my door and asked if I was free to talk for a bit. Before I realized I wasn't nearly as over my ex as I thought. And definitely before I figured out that Sean was keeping something to himself, something I didn't see coming at all. The next time I saw Sean, I was doing laundry in the basement. Now, if you've never lived in an old building with a communal laundry room, let me paint the picture. Flickering fluorescent light, one washer that sounds like it's preparing for liftoff, and a suspicious stain on the concrete floor that no one talks about. It's where hope goes to wrinkle. I was halfway through stuffing a tangled mess of sheets into the dryer when I heard the door creak open behind me. "Laundry at midnight," Sean said, stepping in with a laundry basket under one arm. "You living on the edge, huh?" I smirked without turning around. Bold of you to assume I don't do all my best thinking between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. He chuckled and set his basket down. Daisy wasn't with him this time, and I kind of missed her wagging approval. But Sean made up for it by casually leaning against the folding table, arms crossed, watching me like I was doing something fascinating, instead of just feeding quarters into a machine from 1985. "You always do laundry this late?" he asked. I shrugged. "Less competition for the dryer." He nodded like I'd said something wise. Smart man. Silence fell for a second. Not awkward, just quiet. I wiped my hands on my shorts and leaned against the opposite wall, mirroring him. "You settling in okay?" I asked, suddenly feeling weirdly self-conscious about how nosy it sounded. In the building, I mean. "Yeah," he said, a bit slower this time. "It's been good. Kinda nice, actually." His tone shifted, a softness sneaking into it that hadn't been there before. I needed the change. I raised an eyebrow. "Bad breakup or just sick of your last place?" Sean smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Little of both," He paused, then said, I was living with someone for almost 2 years. Oh, that was all I said, but my brain was already running down every possibility. Was it a girlfriend? A boyfriend? Was he even into guys? I hadn't seen him with anyone. Not that it meant anything. This was New York. Everyone kept their lives locked behind 15 passwords and two-factor authentication. Didn't end well? I asked, cautious. He shrugged, then looked away. Not dramatically, just ran out of whatever kept us together, I guess. Been there, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. I had. Tyler and I had also fizzled out, in the least cinematic way possible. No screaming matches, no infidelity, just the slow realization that we weren't the same people anymore. Or maybe we never were, and we just pretended really well. Sean's gaze came back to mine. You live alone? Yeah. He hesitated. That by choice, or more like necessity, I said. My last roommate moved to Chicago and took her emotional support crock-pot with her. Been flying solo ever since. That made him laugh, full and genuine. I felt a little flutter in my chest I didn't appreciate. I wasn't trying to flirt. I wasn't even sure if I could. I like it, I added, quieter. The alone time. But sometimes it's a little too quiet, you know? Sean nodded slowly. Yeah, I get that. The dryer beeped behind me, and I turned to open it, pulling out the still warm sheets. The heat against my hands was oddly comforting, grounding. I didn't realize Sean had stepped closer until I turned around and nearly bumped into him. Sorry, he said, but didn't move away. We were close now. Not too close, but enough that I could smell the faint hint of cedar and detergent on his shirt. His eyes looked darker in the basement light. I don't mind the quiet, he said, softer now, but it's nice, having someone to talk to, even if it's just about dryer schedules. I felt my throat go dry. Something about the way he was looking at me, calm, unafraid, a little curious, made my skin buzz. Same, I managed to say. He held my gaze for a moment longer, then finally stepped back. Cool, he said, clearing his throat. Well, I should throw my stuff in before I start interviewing my socks. I nodded, grabbing my laundry basket like it was a life raft. Yeah, I should head up, let you get to it. He gave me a little wave as I walked past him. I felt his eyes follow me to the door. And that night, when I got back to my apartment and tossed the warm sheets onto my bed, I couldn't stop replaying that moment in the laundry room. The closeness. The way his voice had dropped. The way my chest had tightened like something inside me knew this wasn't going to be just casual, neighborly banter. Something was shifting. And I didn't know if I was ready for it. A week passed after that night in the laundry room, but something had changed. It was subtle at first. I'd bump into Sean more often than before, but it didn't feel accidental. He'd show up at just the right time, passing me in the hallway when I was coming back from work, walking Daisy while I was getting the mail, stopping to hold the door open when I had my hands full. It was like we were on the same wavelength now, like he'd tuned into me in a way that felt a little too deliberate. And I didn't hate it. One night, after another brutal day at work, tight deadlines, 2 skipped meals, and 1 passive-aggressive email from my boss, I collapsed onto my couch and stared at my phone like it owed me an apology. My apartment was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that made your thoughts echo back at you, sharper than before. Then came the knock. Not loud, just 3 soft raps on my door. I frowned, dragging myself up. When I opened it, Sean was standing there, holding 2 iced coffees. Thought you could use a pick-me-up, he said, already holding one out to me. Decaf. I remembered. You remembered? He shrugged like it was no big deal. You mentioned it once. I took the cup. stunned. Thanks. That's really nice, actually. He leaned against the doorframe. You okay? I let out a long breath. Honestly? No. But caffeine helps me pretend I am. He smiled. Want to talk about it? I looked past him down the hall. It was late. Everyone else on the floor had probably already retreated to their apartments. Dinner dishes washed, lights dimmed. I don't want to bore you with work drama, I said. Then don't, he replied. Come hang out on the fire escape. You can just sit there and sip your coffee. No pressure to talk. I paused for a beat, then nodded. Give me 2 minutes. The fire escape outside his kitchen window had a view of the side alley and the distant glow of the corner bodega's neon sign. It wasn't exactly scenic, but there was something peaceful about it, especially with the summer air cooling down and the city buzzing far below us like background noise. Sean sat across from me, one leg hanging through the railing, the other bent with his foot resting on the metal grate. I mirrored him. For a while, we just sat there in silence, sipping our drinks. Eventually, he said, when I was a kid, I used to sneak out onto the roof of our building back in Jersey. Same vibe. City noise in the background, weird smell from the dumpster below, occasional rat sighting. It was perfect. I laughed quietly. Sounds glamorous. You joke, he said, grinning. But when you're 16 and everything feels too loud, a good rat sighting is oddly grounding. I sipped my drink. Work's been hell. He didn't ask for details. Just nodded like he understood the kind of hell I meant. Deadlines? And bosses who forget what being human feels like. He looked at me then. Really looked. You don't talk much about yourself. I hesitated. Not much to say. I don't believe that for a second. That stopped me. Sean had a way of saying things. Not pushy, not demanding, but in a way that made you want to open up just to see what would happen if you did. I hated how much I wanted to. I think I got used to keeping everything internal, I said finally. I used to overshare. Then it started biting me in the ass. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I know the feeling. There was a pause. Then he added, You ever have someone make you feel like being open was a liability? I glanced at him. That wasn't a random question. Yeah, I said. Tyler was like that. My ex. He looked at me, unreadable. I was too much, too emotional, too opinionated, too out. Sean raised his eyebrows slightly. You're out? He asked. Careful, not judgmental. Yeah. Have been for a while. Wasn't really a thing with Tyler. He was too, but he made it clear that being gay didn't mean we had to act like it, whatever that means. Sean let out a low whistle. Wow, that's some loaded bullshit. Yup. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'm not fully out. I didn't move. Just let him say it on his own terms. My last relationship, he continued, voice quieter now, was with a guy, but I haven't told many people. Some of my friends know, not my family, not anyone at work. I nodded, heart thudding a little. That must be hard. He looked away, staring out at the alley. I thought I was okay with it. I told myself it wasn't a big deal, that not talking about it didn't mean I was ashamed. But it kind of eats at you after a while, living halfway between hiding and not. My chest ached a little. I didn't say anything right away. I just reached over, and for a split second, I touched his arm. A quiet, steady pressure. Nothing romantic. Just something to say. I see you. He looked at me then, and the look on his face, somewhere between relief and vulnerability, hit me hard. I don't know what I'm doing, he said softly. Me neither, I said. The city buzzed beneath us. Lights flickered. The air shifted. And we just sat there, two people on a rusting fire escape, trying to make sense of the stuff we didn't have names for yet. After that night on the fire escape, things changed between us. Not dramatically. We didn't suddenly become inseparable. There wasn't a big moment where everything was spelled out. but the energy shifted. I felt it every time we passed each other in the hallway. Every time I heard his door open and found myself pausing whatever I was doing, hoping it was him. We were orbiting each other now. Sometimes Daisy would scratch at my door, tail wagging like she had secrets to share. Sean would knock a minute later, usually holding takeout or a movie on his phone, asking if I was busy in this casual way that made it seem like he wasn't really asking at all. Most nights I said yes. One Saturday night, it was raining hard, the kind of downpour that felt biblical. I was lying on the couch with a blanket, scrolling through mindless reels when a text popped up. Sheehan, power just flickered 3 times. If I disappear, tell my story. I smirked. M.E., I'll say you died heroically, protecting Daisy from a microwave fire or something. S.C.N., legendary. When I come down, I've got wine and 0 plans. I stared at the message for a moment, then grabbed my hoodie. His apartment was dim and warm when he opened the door. Daisy barked once, wagged her entire butt, and then flopped back on the floor like greeting me had taken all her strength. A movie was paused on the TV. Candles flickered along the kitchen counter. The scent of something roasted hung faintly in the air. Sean handed me a glass of wine without asking what I wanted. He just knew. We sat on his couch, side by side, our knees occasionally bumping. I didn't pull away. Neither did he. The movie was some old noir film, black and white, overly dramatic, but strangely soothing. At one point, I felt his shoulder rest lightly against mine. He didn't move. Neither did I. I thought, in that moment, that maybe this was it. Maybe this was where it would happen, whatever it was. A kiss? A confession? Something small that cracked the quiet tension wide open? But then Sean stood up suddenly. "I'm gonna grab another bottle," he said, voice a little tight. I nodded, throat dry. While he was in the kitchen, I took a breath and stared at the blank space where his body had just been. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what he was doing. But the weight of not knowing was starting to get heavy. When he came back, he refilled both our glasses. Didn't sit as close this time. Eventually, the movie ended, and we just sat there in the soft quiet, the sound of the rain tapping against the windows like a metronome. "I used to think attraction was simple," Sean said suddenly. "You like someone, you make a move. Easy." I looked at him, surprised. He wasn't meeting my eyes. "But now," he continued, "it's like I get in my own head about everything. I overthink what things mean. I question my own intentions. I doubt what they might feel back." I set my glass down slowly. "Are we still talking hypotheticals?" His jaw tensed. "No," he said. There was a long silence. My heart was hammering so hard I was afraid he could hear it. "You want to ask me something?" I said quietly. Sean exhaled. "Yeah, so ask." He turned then, finally looked at me. "Have you felt it too?" he asked. "This thing between us?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." He let out a slow breath, like he'd been holding it for hours. "I don't know what to do with that," he admitted. "You don't have to know," I said. Not right away. Sean looked down at the space between us, his fingers twisting the label on the wine bottle. "I'm scared of messing it up," he said. "You're the first person in a long time I felt safe around." That hit me hard. "You're not gonna mess it up," I said. "You're allowed to feel unsure. We both are." Another long pause. Then, without a word, Sean reached out and rested his hand on my thigh. Just a quiet, steady pressure. It wasn't sexual. It wasn't even romantic. It was a tether. Something real. I put my hand over his. We stayed like that until the candles burned low and the storm softened into a drizzle. Eventually, I left. Not because I wanted to, but because the moment didn't need more. It had already said enough. But the minute I got back to my apartment, I leaned against the closed door, heart still racing. Because now there was no denying it. This wasn't just something casual or convenient. This was gonna matter. The next morning, I woke up thinking about Sean. Not in the dreamy butterflies in your stomach way. More like a low, persistent hum I couldn't shake. That hand on my thigh. That look in his eyes. The way he said he felt safe around me. Like he didn't say that sort of thing often, maybe ever. But then the day unfolded like any other. I cleaned up, answered emails, went for a walk to clear my head. I passed his window once and saw Daisy sleeping on the couch. The curtain shifted, but I didn't stop. I didn't knock. We hadn't talked about what happened. We didn't text that day. Or the next. I tried to tell myself it was fine, that sometimes space was necessary. But by day 3, the silence started to feel heavy. Not like a pause. More like a door slowly starting to close. Then came Thursday. I was heading down the stairs with a bag of trash when I saw him in the lobby, talking to someone I didn't recognize. Tall guy, athletic, wearing joggers and a smirk that made me instantly dislike him. Sean laughed at something the guy said. His hand touched the other guy's arm, briefly, casually, but it felt intimate in a way I hadn't seen before. Something twisted in my stomach. I dumped the trash in the bin and walked back upstairs without saying anything. That night, I didn't hear from him. I didn't sleep much either. By Friday, I was pacing around my apartment, trying to ignore the questions clawing at my brain. Was I reading into something that wasn't there? Had I misjudged what we were to each other? Was he just scared? Or was he moving on from whatever almost happened between us? I told myself I was being dramatic, that I should just talk to him. So I did. Kind of. I texted him late that night, after half a bottle of red and too many reruns of shows I wasn't really watching. Me. Hey, you around? 15 minutes passed. Then a reply. Sheehan, yeah, just got back. What's up? Me, can I come by? Sheehan, of course. His apartment was quiet when he opened the door. Daisy greeted me with a sleepy wag of her tail, then went right back to her spot on the couch. Sean was barefoot, wearing an old hoodie and shorts, his hair still damp from a shower. He looked tired, like he hadn't been sleeping much either. Hey, he said softly. Hey. I stepped inside. He closed the door behind me. For a second, neither of us moved. I saw you yesterday, I said finally, in the lobby. His eyebrows lifted slightly, but he didn't look surprised. Yeah, he said. His name's Ben, just a friend. From work? I nodded, pretending that explanation didn't sting more than it should have. He watched me for a beat. Why'd you really come over, Eli? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked to his kitchen and leaned against the counter. He followed, slowly. I don't want to play whatever game this is turning into, I said. I'm not good at pretending like things didn't happen. He nodded, arms crossed loosely. Neither am I. You disappeared. You did too. I looked at him then. Because I didn't want to push you. You said you didn't know what to do with this, and I tried to give you space. And I needed it, he said. But that doesn't mean I wanted distance, I exhaled. Then what do you want? He was quiet for a long time. Then, I want to be close to you. But I also don't want to fuck it up. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it hit so close to home. You're not the only one afraid of that. He took a step closer. There's more to this than I planned for, he said, voice quieter now. I thought moving into a new place would just be about fresh air. Starting over, getting my head right, but then you happened. My chest ached. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know yet, he said, but it feels real. We stood there in the quiet. Then, finally, he asked, Can I show you something? I nodded. He walked over to his desk and pulled out a small, beat-up sketchbook. He opened it halfway and handed it to me. Inside were quick pencil drawings of Daisy, of the fire escape, of the building, and of me. One sketch in particular caught me off guard. It was a profile, soft and focused, clearly drawn from memory. I was sitting on the fire escape, coffee cup in hand, eyes looking out into the city. I've been drawing again since I met you, he said quietly. I closed the book. I don't know what we're doing, I said, but I know I don't want it to end before it even begins. Sean stepped closer, close enough to touch. Me neither. He was right there now, our faces inches apart. I could feel his breath, the hesitation, the want. And then, finally, he kissed me. Soft, careful, like he was still asking permission. I didn't pull away. And when he pressed his forehead to mine, after, eyes closed, I stayed right there with him. Because whatever this was, it wasn't casual anymore. It was real. And it was just beginning. The morning after we kissed, I woke up before my alarm. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the soft light of the city bleeding through the blinds, everything feeling different. Not in a movie ending kind of way, not like the world had magically aligned, more like something delicate had cracked open, and now I couldn't unsee what was inside. Sean and I hadn't said much after it happened. The kiss, that is. Afterward, we just sat on the couch, close but not touching, both of us kind of shell-shocked in this quiet, buzzing way. I think we were both trying not to make it heavier than it already was. He walked me to the door, said, "Good night," like nothing earth-shifting had just occurred, and I went back upstairs, still tasting him on my lips. Now I was standing in my kitchen making coffee, the mug warm between my hands, and all I could think about was, what now? I didn't know how to reach for him without scaring him off. He was still figuring himself out, still holding parts of himself at arm's length. And I didn't want to become someone who pushed too hard or needed too much too soon, but that didn't stop me from wanting. Around 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Xian, hey, want to come walk Daisy with me?" I stared at the screen for a second before typing back. "Emmy, yeah, give me 5. He was waiting outside when I got downstairs, Daisy already tugging at the leash like she had an important meeting to get to. Sean smiled when he saw me, and something about it was different. It wasn't just friendly, it was softer, unspoken. "Morning," he said, a little shy. "Morning," I replied. We walked in silence at first. Just the rhythm of Daisy's nails tapping on the sidewalk, and the occasional car passing by. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't quite settled either. Eventually, Sean said, "So, last night," I nodded. "Yeah. I hope that was okay. You're asking after you kissed me?" I teased, but gently. He gave a sheepish smile. "I mean, yeah, I've never done that before." "Kiss someone?" "No," he laughed. "Let someone in like that. Made it real." We stopped at the corner, waiting for the light to change. His hand brushed mine. "I meant it," he said. "It wasn't some impulse thing." "I know. And I don't want it to be just a one-time thing." I turned to him. "Neither do I." The light changed. We crossed. A block later, he asked, "What are we doing, Eli?" I didn't answer right away. It wasn't that I didn't know. It was that I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I didn't want to freak him out. So I said the truest thing I could. "I don't know exactly, but I want to keep finding out." He looked relieved. We walked a bit more, then sat on a bench by the park while Daisy sniffed around some bushes like her life depended on it. "I've had a lot of people want pieces of me," Sean said quietly. "Bits they liked. But the whole picture? No one's ever really wanted that." I looked at him, my heart aching a little. "I do." He met my gaze. "Even the messy parts?" "Especially those." He smiled, but there was something guarded still, like a window that wasn't fully open. And I got it. I really did. Because I had messy parts too. Later that night, I heard a knock at my door. It was after 11, and I was halfway through brushing my teeth. When I opened it, Sean was standing there in sweatpants and a hoodie, looking exhausted but determined. "I don't know how to do this," he said before I could even ask what was wrong. "Do what?" "Let someone matter this much." I froze, my toothbrush still in my hand. Foam and all. He laughed softly. Sorry, bad timing. No, just unexpected. I stepped aside to let him in. He sat on my couch, hunched forward like he was trying to fold himself into something smaller. I think about you all the time, he said, and I don't know what to do with that. You don't have to do anything, I said, sitting beside him. Just be honest with me, even when it's messy. I'm trying, he whispered. He looked at me then, eyes tired but clear, and for the second time that week, he kissed me. This time, there was no hesitation, no holding back, just heat and ache, and something desperate beneath the surface like we'd both been starving for this exact moment. His hands found my sides. Mine slipped into his hair. We didn't go all the way, not that night, but we didn't need to. What happened between us was already enough to unravel something I'd kept knotted for way too long. When we finally came up for air, I rested my forehead against his. We're in this now, I said, breathless. You okay with that? He nodded. I'm scared, he admitted. But yeah, and right there on my couch, with the TV humming in the background and the city quiet outside my window, Sean let me hold him. Not because he needed fixing, but because he finally wanted to stop running. For the next week, it was like we were living in a bubble. Sean would come by in the evenings, sometimes just to sit on my couch and scroll through his phone while I worked on freelance projects. We didn't always talk. Sometimes Daisy would curl up between us, like she was the silent chaperone of our very strange, very slow-burning romance. And sometimes we'd kiss. Not rushed or hungry, but soft, familiar. The kind of kisses that said, this is real, and I'm learning how to live with that. But not everything stayed perfect. Things never do. It started small, little changes in Sean's energy. He'd get quiet in the middle of a conversation, zone out during a movie, suddenly check his phone like he was waiting for bad news. I tried not to overthink it. I knew he was still adjusting to letting someone in. I knew fear didn't just evaporate after one kiss or one night. But it started to weigh on me. One night, I was making dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and garlic bread, when he texted. Sheehan, hey, not feeling great, might just stay in tonight. I stood there, spoon in hand, steam rising from the pot, and stared at the message. We'd spent the last 4 nights together. This was the first one apart. That should have felt normal, but it didn't. Something about the message felt off, vague. Not like him. Me, all good. Want me to bring you anything? Sheehan, nah, just need to sleep probably. Thanks though. I sent a thumbs up emoji because I didn't know what else to say. Then I ate dinner alone, daisyless and distracted, the food tasting like nothing. 2 days passed before I saw him again. It wasn't planned. I was heading out to grab a delivery order when I ran into him in the lobby. He looked tired. Hoodie up, eyes a little dull, a gym bag slung over his shoulder like he wasn't sure where he was going next. Hey, I said. He startled a little, then smiled. Hey, we stood there in awkward silence, the kind that used to be so easy between us but now felt fragile. You okay? I asked. He shrugged. Just been in my head a lot. I nodded, trying to keep my voice steady. I noticed. I didn't mean to ghost, he said quickly. I just needed space to think. I swallowed hard. About what? He looked down at his shoes, then back at me. About how fast this is moving. About whether I can actually give you what you deserve. I felt my stomach drop. What does that mean? I mean, I'm still figuring myself out, Eli, he said. And I care about you so much, but I keep thinking, what if I mess this up? What if I can't be what you need? You don't have to be perfect, I said. You just have to be honest. He looked wrecked. Not dramatic, just genuinely unsure of himself. And I hated how much I wanted to fix it. I've never felt like this before, he said, voice shaking. And it terrifies me. I get it, I said. I do. But if you're going to push me away, just be straight with me. Don't go quiet. Don't pretend nothing's wrong. I'm not pushing you away, he said. I'm trying to hold on without falling apart. That broke something in me, because I knew that feeling. I stepped closer, slowly. You don't have to do this alone, I said. Whatever this is, you don't have to carry it by yourself. He didn't answer, just nodded, eyes a little glassy. I should get upstairs, he said after a beat. Shower, clear my head. Okay. He hesitated, then added, I'll text you? It sounded more like a question than a promise. I nodded once, then watched him walk away. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling again, the same way I did before all of this started. And I realized something terrifying. I was falling for him. Not in the casual, maybe this will fade kind of way, but in the way that makes you rearrange parts of yourself just to make space for someone else. And I didn't know if he was going to meet me halfway. But I also knew this wasn't the end. Because sometimes love doesn't come in a clean line. It stumbles. It retreats. It gets scared and comes back around. And I was still here, still hoping, still holding space for him, even if he didn't know what to do with it yet. The following weekend, Sean came knocking, just as the sun was beginning to dip behind the skyline. His hair was damp, still tousled from a shower, and he carried a small bag that smelled faintly of laundry detergent and pine. Daisy bolted to the door, and he bent down to scoop her into his arms before looking up at me. Hey, he said quietly. No teasing, no casual nonchalance, just him. Hey, I replied. My heart was hammering in a way that reminded me why I couldn't think straight around him. He set Daisy down, and we both ended up on the couch, not touching but close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. I kept my hands on my lap, trying to seem calm, trying not to reach out and close the distance that was already shrinking between us. After a long moment, he looked at me and said, I've been thinking about us. My chest tightened. I'd been thinking about that too every time he stepped into my apartment, every time his laughter floated down the hallway, every time he rested his hand near mine and didn't pull it away. But I didn't know if we were ready for words yet. Go on, I said softly. I've been scared, he admitted. Not of you, not of us, but of what comes next. I've never let anyone in like this, and I keep worrying I'll screw it up. I get that, I said. And honestly, so have I. But we're not going to figure it out if we don't take the risk. He leaned back, exhaling slowly. I don't want to hide anymore. From you, from myself. I nodded, feeling the lump in my throat grow heavy. Then don't. You can't be half here. Sean swallowed and reached out to take my hand this time. His fingers were warm, deliberate, and gentle. I let him, my own hand finding his as if it had always belonged there. The electricity was undeniable, but it wasn't frantic. It was steady, grounding. I like you, Eli, he whispered, not casually, not just because it's easy. I mean it. I like you too, I said. I have, for a while. We laughed softly, the tension breaking just enough for the room to feel breathable again. And then, slowly, he leaned in, pressing his forehead to mine. A kiss followed, gentle at first, then deeper, an unspoken promise passing between us. The hours slipped by. We talked about everything and nothing. Our fears, our past, the things we'd kept to ourselves, the small hopes that no one else would understand. Each word, each touch, each glance built something fragile and unshakable between us. Later, when the night grew quiet and the city hummed outside, he rested his head on my shoulder, Daisy curled up at our feet, and I realized that all the uncertainty, all the hesitation, had led us to this. To honesty, closeness, and the kind of connection that didn't need to be perfect to be real. We didn't have all the answers, and we probably never would. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel scared. I felt present, and I felt seen, and that was more than enough.